This podcast is made possible by New Masters Academy, the world's #1 art school. If you want to learn from the teachers who taught us, check out the links down below.
Welcome back to the Honey and Absinthe After Hours podcast. I'm your host, Vincent, a background designer for animation.
And I'm Janet, the ex-Disney artist turned independent creator, and this is a podcast about all things art, business, and whatever we feel like.
And today we're going to talk about how our dreams changed as we got older.
But before we get into it, make sure to smash the like button.
Over there. It's the morning. It's Saturday morning. So much energy.
Oh my gosh. And I don't really wake up till the afternoon.
I don't see you until 2 o'clock, so.
Yeah, so we were talking about this topic a lot, just randomly, because a lot of things had changed for us fairly recently, and our goals have changed, our dreams and our hopes and dreams have changed a lot. And we realized, hey, it's a really good topic for the podcast.
Yeah, it's a really good conversation that we had. And how I know usually when it's a really good conversation that's worth podcasting over is when I feel a little like, oh man, it sucks that the mics aren't rolling right now.
Yeah.
Speeding. Sorry.
So we wanted to take you through kind of our hopes and dreams when we were young up to where we are now and how they've changed. And when I was younger, I never thought I would be in this place for sure.
What did you think you wanted to be when you grew up, when you were little Janet, baby Janet?
So when I was younger, I really wanted to change the world, for one, but not in any sort of like grand way. I just wanted to make a difference in the world in some way, as best as I can. And I don't know if you had these kind of existential thoughts when you're little, but I for one wanted to be meaningful. Like I was like, what is the meaning of life? And I'd be like, I don't know, but like, and I didn't grow up religious, so I was like, I want to have made a difference. That's why I am. But aside from that, I really wanted recognition. I think a lot of people do when they're young.
You want to prove yourself, right?
Yeah, but for me, wanting to be the best at what I did meant getting recognition. Like, to me, I think I was, brought up to believe that if you are doing something, the only way to tell that you're good at it or that you did something that matters is if you won a trophy. If you got some kind of recognition.
I'm student of the month.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Bumper stickers.
And part of that too was because of being constantly underestimated and told that I couldn't achieve the things that I wanted to achieve.
Makes you want to get at it harder.
Yeah. Instead of like defeating me. So, for example, when I decided I wanted to do art for a living, specifically in entertainment, I didn't just want to be a worker, and I wanted to be the best. So, and when you're young, what does that mean? What's the most visual representation of that? It's a director winning an Oscars winning an Academy Award. That's what I thought was the pinnacle of achievement. Lo and behold, that's completely not the case whatsoever. Like, most people don't realize, like, oh, being a director is not like the top of the food chain at all. But when you're really that's what you think. Like, I remember asking a friend of ours recently, like, who do you think controls everything? And then he was like, the director. And I was like, no. No, not at all. But it's interesting that most people think that. And when you're young, that's what I thought. And so one day at like a family dinner thing, kind of like a Thanksgiving, By the way, this is our Thanksgiving weekend episode.
Oh, it feels so relaxed.
Yeah.
I've never felt this good in a long time. How do you feel?
I feel the same. But it's kind of nice having you have a little bit of a break. You're kind of like living my life for like a weekend.
Oh, it's so great. It's so great. I love living your life. I wish I could live your life every day.
So at this kind of like Thanksgiving-esque family dinner thing, I think I had just graduated high school, or I was just about to, and my parents have never supported me all that much, but my parents are just as, I guess, competitive and prideful as I am. And so we were at this family gathering, and they were asking me, my extended family was asking me what I wanted to do in the future. That's such a stressful question to ask someone who's just about to graduate high school. Like how is a 17-year-old supposed to know? But I thought I had my whole life figured out at that age, and so I said I want to become a director, and my entire extended family basically laughed in my face at the dinner table, especially this one grandpa. And he basically, because, in this kind of family gathering, they don't talk to you, the child. They talk to my parents, I guess. Instead of, like, talking to me directly, they talked to my dad and was like, what do you think she's going to achieve from this? And then my dad, completely confused, was like, what do you mean? And then he was like, she's a woman. She will never be able to become a director. And then my dad got so mad. He got so mad and was like, what do you know? You don't know anything about her. She's going to achieve everything. And but like, this is not something my dad normally at that time would say. It would pretty much he would pretty much tell me the same thing, but like now that like someone else was saying that about his daughter, he was like, no, how dare you. But I had a lot of that growing up, especially
a lot of people would just give you shit.
Yeah, like that, like not even as an insult, just like a given. Just like, why do you why do you think you can achieve anything that you want to achieve?
Impossible.
Yeah. And on top of that, I grew up where I grew up, and a lot of people in my town are excellent, very intelligent human beings. Let's just say that. So, for example, there are...
So I never really hung out at Arcadia ever.
Yeah.
And I lived in Los Angeles for all of my life, and I'd go to Pasadena and Glendale. These are all just like surrounding towns connected to Los Angeles. But when I started dating you, I'd drive all the way to Arcadia, which is like, a few towns over. Mm-hmm. I mean, some would consider it like driving to another state. Almost, right?
I mean, in some states,
I guess, yeah. But it's a very, very sleepy town. A lot of, old diners and Chinese food and boba tea places, but not a lot of big skyscrapers or anything. It's just flat land right next to the mountains. Very sleepy. So you live that like E.T. suburbia life.
Except it's like a lot of like new money Chinese people who want to live in gaudy mansions. Yeah,
so you'd see historical suburban houses besides these McMansions with fountains and
that are not
big
tasteful
shrubs
whatsoever, nor are they all that
the architecture's all
honestly
out of whack.
Yeah. Because
it's bits and pieces of like different centuries. It doesn't make sense. And
design language, like I think an architect would just puke looking at it because it's big for the sake of big.
We gotta do a vlog where we drive around and we just criticize the mansions. That'd be fun.
But anyways, the people in my town, it's a really good school district. So my parents basically struggled really hard just to allow me, just so they can move to this school district that I'm not sure they could afford, just to send me to school in this district. And it was very hard for me moving there because I moved there fairly young, probably at like 6 or 7. But even then, I felt like I was really behind in school. I got, like, for the longest time, I got like D's until probably middle school, where I basically figured out the game of school and I got straight A's. But it was hard for me to keep, like, for example, my parents didn't speak any English, so when I moved here specifically, because I came from like further in the valley where it was cheaper to live, and how was I supposed to learn English? So by, like, most kids when they were 6 years old, 7 years old, you know how to speak English.
Yeah.
I basically just spoke Cantonese and like a little bit of English. So I was like in the English learners thing, even though I was born here. Like, lo and behold, it's hard. And like, this school district is really, really competitive and crazy. So I mean, I went to school with a lot of people who went to MIT, and a lot of people who ended up going to Stanford and Yale and Harvard, all the Ivy Leagues. And I mean, I wasn't the only one that got accepted to these like prestigious art schools. Like, it was like because I was surrounded by people like this, I never thought I was all that special or great or smart, because I was like, clearly there are people smarter than me in my class.
Yeah, that's why you said in a recent podcast that if you were to brag that I worked at Disney, the dude from MIT and the dude working at Tesla would be like, so what?
Like, what? Yeah. So, and what else have you done? Yeah, I grew up always feeling a little bit like an underdog. Like, I never felt, because I never felt I was all that exceptional or smart or talented, like, I would when I would share a lot of stories with my coworkers in like DreamWorks and other places about how I grew up and the people I grew up with, and the little jabs they would say to me about like being an artist and not even being the best artist in my school too. Like, a lot of people in my school have
a lot of
hobbies
people
and stuff that are good.
A lot of my classmates from college came from your school.
Yeah.
Or Alhambra, which is like basically the town adjacent to Arcadia.
Yeah. But like there are people, for example, who build an entire art portfolio not because they want to go to art school, because it's like their quote unquote extracurricular, so that they can get into like Harvard.
Yeah, some would take like piano, or some would take some sort of like I don't know, violin or something.
And it's not because they want to be a concert pianist, and it's not because they wanted to be an amazing artist.
It looks good on the college application.
Yeah, but they are an amazing artist,
right,
in their own right. So I never felt like they would say certain things like, "Oh, it's brave of you to pick art as a career." And I'd be like, "What do you mean? What does anyone mean by that? How do you say something like that and expect and think that that's not like they're really rude?" But I grew up with stuff like that, and I didn't think much of it, because I mean, once you have people say stuff like that to you constantly, you stop taking it personally, and it's not something that like upset me.
You get a thick skin.
Yeah. But,
yeah, I've had a lot of teachers telling me, like, you're never going to be anything.
Yeah, and you're just like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, fuck you then.
Yeah, well, fuck you.
You're a teacher.
And,
you're teaching me.
Yeah.
So.
And then I go, I'm working in Hollywood. And then, see, right there, right there. That's when you step into the dark side.
Yeah, because it's like, who cares?
Yeah, who cares? So you're just, like, putting up ego bullshit.
Yeah, just I don't know.
So I try really hard not to
think that.
To do that, yeah.
So yeah, when I was younger, my dreams were to to be a director, but specifically a director that would get be good enough, quote unquote, good enough to win an Academy Award or whatever. And that was my idea of like being successful and getting recognition, doing something that was meaningful at that time. What about you?
When I grew up, for as long as I could remember, I was a really creative little boy. And paint watercolors and stuff and draw all the time. And I'm pretty sure a lot of artists feel the same way. And then when I was growing up, I had a lot of VHS cassette tapes, and one of them, two of them were Peter Pan and what was the other one? Bambi. And they were all like those special edition from the vault cassette tapes. And in those tapes, they had behind the scenes footage of way back in the day when they would show all the animation footage of like, I think the scenes in Bambi where there's like droplets, they show how they animate the droplets, and you see Walt Disney explaining, oh, this is my new movie, Bambi. And it was just really inspiring. But when I was a kid, I didn't go, I want to do that. But then I really started to get infatuated with how movies were made. Because, you never grew up watching Mr. Rogers.
No, I didn't.
But when you grow up watching Mr. Rogers shows off like, oh, this is how a chair is made, or this is how they make this machine in a factory. I was really, really obsessed with like how are movies made. So whenever you'd see Spielberg in Entertainment Tonight talk about his latest movie, and then like all the cool like people gathered around with the cool movie equipment with the grips and the cranes and all that stuff, I was just like really, even at a really young age growing up watching movies, I was like, I want to be a part of this, I think. But I'm not really sure what. But I know I love movies a lot because this is all I love to do. I love watching movies. So when Toy Story came out, I was 5 years old, and my parents took me to the El Capitan. And have you ever watched an animated movie there?
I don't think I have.
If you watch an animated movie at the El Capitan, there is a little presentation that they do. And then I remember when I was a kid, a bunch of people dressed up as Buzz Lightyear and Woody came out. But then it was like my first exposure to the characters. I wasn't really sure what Toy Story was. I don't even remember watching commercials for it, but my parents took me to watch it anyway, because I guess it was just like really hyped at the time. But then I remember, man, like Buzz Lightyear with his buttons, and then watching the movie and thinking, I was like, oh, what a fantastic adventure. This is amazing. So when fast forward years later, Toy Story 2 came out, and I was just like in love with Toy Story, and Shrek came out, and that was awesome. And I just wanted to be a part of this CG animated world. And I explained in a previous podcast that I had this relative who was dating somebody from DreamWorks, and they showed me, his work from school, and I was like really inspired by that. So that's how I figured out that that's where I wanted to go. I wanted to go to Art Center to learn how to draw like that, to make the movies up on the screen that I grew up watching. Like that was my dream. And when I would watch like, oh man, when the DVD era came, I had no idea that would be like the best thing in the world for me, because as somebody who'd watch movies, I would watch these DVDs and they'd have like really good quality picture. But not only that, they have behind the scenes stuff where I remember my very first DVD was Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. And like, even though I knew that movie was ridiculous, what I loved about it was they went into there was like a whole movie about making that movie in that DVD. And then that really showed me how people make movies. It's like, holy shit, man. That's how like a bunch of people are gathered around to make this one gigantic piece of art. This is crazy. And then when the DVD era came, as I would get DVDs for Toy Story and Shrek and all of that, they really, really spent a lot of time in the behind the scenes stuff, showing off every ounce of the production, all the deleted scenes, storyboards, and all this stuff. They even have little Easter eggs. If you like tap around the DVDs, sometimes you'll find like your cursor goes into like some weird place, and then it's like bonus secret material.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, like I think Harry Potter's DVD had one, and a few of the Pixar ones have some Easter eggs too, if you look hard enough. But I would watch these behind the scenes animated movie things religiously, and I would just fantasize about, and they would make it look like it's like the funnest thing in the world. There was this one with John Lasseter, and he's like on like a fucking elliptical, and he like does the whole like, oh hey, didn't see you there. And then he like says some bullshit like, yeah, this is like a part of my morning routine. And and I remember watching that again, like at least like 5 or 6 years ago, thinking like the same thing. I think I was just like looking at YouTube and I stumbled upon it again. I was just like, oh, bullshit. As if you do, this is your fucking routine every morning. But then he would like wake up and then there's toys everywhere, and he'd go to work and there's the lamp and there's the ball and then there's people skateboarding and there's free food. I'm not sure there's free food, but it's like really good looking food. Yeah. Really good looking, like talented people and beautiful open space, and it's just like, oh man. When you're fucking like 10 years old, you look at that shit and you go, especially if you're a creative, you go, oh man,
yeah,
that's what I want to do.
The dream.
That's the dream.
Meanwhile, in actuality, John Lasseter probably never goes on the treadmill in the morning. It's probably covered in dust, and I think just for that shoot he had to hire a young, handsome, nubile young male intern. Yeah. And have him dust off the treadmill right before the shoot, and then he's like, oh, it's perfectly pristine now. I'll just for this one shot. Yeah, those it's amazing, those pieces of documentary entertainment, right?
Yeah,
where they show you exactly what it's like to work, or that so you think. It's amazing now looking at that, because you told me there's like some kind of new version of that on somewhere.
Yeah, I saw a trailer for it, I think when I was watching something on YouTube, and I thought it was on Netflix. So I told her, like, oh shit, they're trying to hypnotize the youth again.
Yeah. So we had this whole conversation about like
is that a documentary? Is that an objective documentary showing the detailed comings and goings for Pixar, or is that straight up fucking propaganda?
Yeah, and I was like, oh my god.
We had a whole fucking like 2-hour long discussion about it. I wish I recorded it, but
and because looking back at it now, being in that same situation, if they do that all the time. They go around with like a camera crew and they're doing some kind of ad, and then you just ignore them.
You know, like, okay, pause real quick.
Yeah.
Put a pin on that.
Yeah.
I always wanted to say this on this podcast. You guys really need to stop being impressed by whatever people do behind this screen, because it's really fucking easy.
Yeah.
You know, like for example, Biden is asking for money for his campaign or whatever bullshit for some reason right now, because he won, right? He totally won.
Clearly.
But for some strange reason, he's still asking for money. But if you go to that fucking site, it looks like somebody cobbled that website up in like 2 minutes. And like, if you really pay attention and if you really understand, if you've like used Squarespace before, if you used like any of these types of websites before, like, it's not very difficult for someone to make a professional looking thing in an hour or two. Yeah. So when you go, like, could you make working at McDonald's epic just using mise-en-scène?
Yes.
Exactly. I think, like, given the right person behind the camera, you could make anything look amazing. So do not be impressed by what you see behind the screen.
I could probably shoot like the best work at McDonald's ad to hypnotize you into thinking working at McDonald's is like, oh, they really take care of you. They really there's so many benefits, and wow, it's McDonald's.
Employees like laughing at each other and then like slightly slow-mo.
Yeah. And like you handing like the most pristine looking burgers to the customer. And then you have such a great boss, like such a great boss. It's so easy. And like all you have to do is perfect that Disney lighting that like, ooh, it's bright and happy and beautiful. And like the people are beautiful, like abnormally beautiful. They're normal. They're like the mom, the dad, they're the like young adult, and they're like making money at McDonald's. Like it's so easy. It's so easy.
So I've been reading this book, Writing Down the Bones by Natalie Goldberg. I've been writing a lot of lyrics lately, and this has been like really good inspiration and peace of mind to get me into this writing mood. A lot of it is basically encouraging you to write every day. At least a page a day or something like that, she says.
That's good advice.
Yeah, and if you want to listen to this book while you're drawing or whatever it is that you do, click on the Audible link over here that helps you get access to amazing things like podcasts and books for cheap and free, and you get free credits. Thank you, Audible.
Yeah.
I tried. Could you make even somebody who works at a FedEx?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool. I could imagine like the dunk 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 dunk, like the synth music playing, and then the people passing the boxes around, and then like we
work really hard to get your packages on time. On time. It's our pride. We take pride in shipping. There you go.
So when they were making the dock again, it was so crazy. It's like there's a certain look. There's like early aughts DVD things have. It's not a bad look. It's just it's kind of dated. It's just like it looks like Dateline. You know what? But like these things look. This new Pixar one looks like. Like it's shot by somebody like it looks like Netflix. It looks like very, very like pristine. It looks very like updated, and I'm just like, ooh, look at that. And it's the same thing
when you told me,
but slightly different.
Because I had no idea. I don't know. Yeah. I'm just like oblivious nowadays to that stuff. And I think I threw up in my mouth a little bit because I was like, oh god, they're doing it again. They're doing what they did to us.
Yeah.
Like
to a new generation of students.
To a whole new generation.
It's like, man, CalArts was really be losing money or some shit.
Yeah. And like for those who truly don't understand, because I remember watching these docs too as a little kid, and it's kind of amazing how they woo you. It really works. We are really good at our jobs. In Hollywood.
We are.
They know how to pull at your heartstrings and how to show the best parts of working and none of the worst or even normal everyday parts. Yeah. To make it seem fun. And when it truly is a giant commercial for this to get more employees one day. And I was thinking, like, isn't that genius in a way? Like a little bit evil and a little bit genius to do that in order to like guarantee a whole new generation of people basically enslaved by student debt to work for you.
When Walt was making his original behind the scenes stuff for like Peter Pan and Bambi and Pinocchio and all that stuff, do you think what were his intentions with that? Was it really to just promote his studio and to like, share with the people what they don't usually see? I
think it was to promote the studio. I think it was to get funding and to get more people interested in the idea of it, because when he was doing it, like no one knew what that was, really. So
what do you think the motive is now? Would it be the same?
Yeah, it's I think
I don't think it's more
a
than
little bit different.
It's more than that.
Yeah.
I
think it's more to make children dream of working at these places, and then for one, you're going to watch all the Disney movies even till you're like we were still watching Disney movies in like college.
In college, we were studying them at that point. Yeah.
And families will encourage that, and then you go to hopefully CalArts because it's basically a
free ticket to ride.
Free ticket into to work at Disney, and then you work at Disney having like $200,000-$300,000 in debt, so you can never leave. And it's a factory. It's a long-term factory. And I thought it was genius because, like, who does that? Who makes documentary advertisements to guarantee a workforce?
Really, who does that? I think, like, you know, Unwrapped has their M&M episode, but you don't have like a whole whole company-funded documentary about all the happy people who make M&Ms.
Yeah. And you can't, like, people would be like, oh, because making M&Ms isn't interesting. Are you sure? You sure that
could you make people who make M&M's job look as epic as like a David Fincher movie?
Yes. Like, you want to be a food scientist and come up with the perfect M&M and like the branding and marketing of M&M.
You see the intro credits are like just like, you know, pools of dye and then chocolate and melted chocolate forming into these little crusty, like, man,
God,
I can already see the visuals in my mind.
I want to be an M&M manufacturer now. Like, I already see it in my mind, and I want to be one. And it's kind of genius because it's like, imagine making like a documentary to be an accountant, to force like children to be accountants. No one fucking does that because it would be it's silly. The idea of like making a doc to glorify an office job is ridiculous. And if people knew that's what working in animation is, it's an office job. It's like you sit at a desk, you come into work, you sit at a desk for 8 hours
in front of a computer.
Yeah, and you go home after, and you get your
and then what do you do? And then you watch more TV.
Yeah,
just like put your face in front of a screen almost 24 hours a day.
So yeah, I thought like, oh, that's how ridiculous to me, having worked in that industry, seeing these documentaries. I go like, man, my job, like my everyday looks like The Office or Office Space. If if you've ever watched that movie or that TV show, please. They're very good. But that's my everyday. But then I look at this advertisement or remember what it was like to watch these documentaries as a kid, and I go like, that's what I thought it was, but this is what it is. That's what I thought it was. This is what it is. That's why, like, people think like, oh, I'm so naive to think it's anything else. Am I though? Am I? And will your kids be? Because we are the people like us who are currently working, who, not me anymore, but people who are working in Hollywood, like you, are now hypnotizing, brainwashing a whole new generation.
Holy shit, my dude. When I saw the footage of the artists working at Pixar, I was like, fuck, they look like me. They look like as young as me. Yeah. This is the weirdest thing. It's so bizarre. Being like 11 and watching the Incredibles behind the scenes special features and seeing all those like people, and now I'm one of those people. They're all as old as me. It's so bizarre. It's so weird to see.
Yeah.
It's so weird to see.
And I genuinely believe the reason why a lot of people got mad at me for my Why I Quit videos. I'm specifically talking about the people who got mad who are currently working. It's like they know everything that I'm saying, which is why there's a strange comment from them that like, what did I expect? But it's also
and,
like,
she's not wrong.
Yeah, I think the true reason that they're not saying is because I'm actively hurting their bottom line. All the people.
It's a very, very, very small industry.
Yeah.
For as big as they try to make you believe it is with cameras and lighting, it's very small.
Yeah, like small and unimpressive, but I mean I think they're losing money because like they were saying things like, oh, protect the art student, and it's like,
that's so funny. Protect the art student.
So like, are you saying that if an art student knew what it truly was like to work in the industry, that it's literally the office? Like, I come in and it's like it is like, there's so many parallels to the office, to like what I experience, that I just laugh when I just laugh and cry at the same time as I watch The Office
and cry because that's my life.
Yeah. And as a young person with all these hopes and dreams, and being fed this propaganda of what we think it is to work in Hollywood, if we knew that was what it truly is, do you think that young art student would make a different decision with their life? That they're paying $200,000-$300,000 for their education now? Like, if that, like, I really thought about it at the time, and I was like, that's disgusting. That's truly disgusting to me, that you would simultaneously say protect the art student and say don't listen to her because of this is what my life is. Like, why do you think I was able to reach these art students, and you the professors and the people who teach at these colleges couldn't? Think about that for a few seconds. And like, it drove me crazy. I was like, oh, so you mean like maybe what I'm saying actually matters. It, like, no matter how many times I have to say it, I just have to keep saying it because clearly, like, people are not listening or don't believe me. Like, man, we're really good at our jobs. The brainwashing is so thorough that even when I show them and say it again and again, people just don't believe me.
And then they'll go, I'll see for myself. And then they see for themselves and they go, fuck.
Yeah.
I put $200,000 just to see for myself, and then fuck.
I told you so. I'm sorry, but I told you so. Yeah, it was truly, like, I had a moment of like, wow. It's kind of like when you are older and you're like rewatching a movie and you have a different perspective on that movie.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it was like. I was like, oh, I have a complete different view of these kind of making of things now. That's hilarious.
It's like Ashley, she thinks she really admires the Gone Girl character.
Oh yeah, it's like that's not really. That's like the female Travis Bickle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, you should not be admiring what's her name?
Well, yeah, the girl from Gone Girl.
Yeah.
So ever since you quit, would you say you're living the dream now?
Yeah, I would. I think working for myself and doing this is everything I could possibly want. Not that it's like not stressful and hard and a whole lot more work. And it's a lot more work than when I was working, for sure. And every time I get a little bit overworked,
I would say it's 4 times more work. 4 or 5 times more work than you had at Disney, for sure.
Especially because even if I choose to take a day off or whatever, I'm never truly off. I never truly have a day off. At least in the mind, at least. But it's, every time I get a little bit like overworked, I feel like I always ask myself, would I rather be where I was in Disney or wherever? And I always go, nope. I much rather be overworked and here, because I love it. I can work 4 times more and not mind it compared to working a normal week at Disney. Like, it's kind of amazing how drained I was after just the bare minimum, in my opinion, and how not drained I am now. Having to work a whole lot more. And my hopes and dreams now are to sustain it, to sustain this life. And I want to grow it too, on top of that. Like, I want to do a lot. What you're seeing now and what I have the time and money for now, what I'm capable of, is a very, very, very small thing that I want to do out of everything. And it's because, like, when I was younger, I think most people think life is short. And so you're hurrying to get to your goal as fast as possible. But now I'm like, no, life is really, really long.
Really long, yeah.
And it would be really sad for me to focus only on one very, very specific thing for the rest of my life, because I get bored really easily, and I'm interested in a whole lot of things, and I want to accomplish a whole lot of things. Some that maybe have absolutely nothing to do with art and my hopes and dreams when I was 18 or 17 or whatever. So now I want to sustain it, and I want to grow it. But I want to be careful to not glorify this job too much, because now that I'm doing it, I've also noticed a lot of people who chase after this life for the wrong reasons. And I think a lot of people want to be YouTubers to be famous, to be rich and famous. And I think if that's what you want, that's a perfectly valid thing to chase after. But the problem is it requires so much more work compared to a lot of other things where you can be rich and famous and require less work. And I've noticed my life isn't for everyone. Like, I don't think everyone wants to work as hard as I do right now to get to
Not
where
everyone wants to manage or micromanage everything.
Yeah. And I think when something like this becomes a job or becomes a little bit too much to handle, I've noticed certain people who have on YouTube, who have the humility to admit this to themselves, realize that being a YouTuber was not really what they want. And they go back to work. They probably keep doing YouTube on the side, or maybe they don't, or they just go back to work.
Didn't you tell me there's a YouTuber who did that recently?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. I remember thinking, like, wow, it takes a lot of, like, just being aware of yourself to go, got what I wanted. See ya.
Yeah. And I think that's important to acknowledge too. That, like, I think most people like to glorify being a YouTuber a little bit too much. And granted, like, if, like, for example, me, it's perfect for me. I'm going to say great things about it. But there are people where, like, I don't think this life is for them. And some people never admit that to themselves, and they just go on,
I'm fine. I'm totally fine. I'll be okay. I'm fine.
Being miserable in their situation. So
Oh,
literally,
let's just order some Postmates, watch some Netflix, play some Overwatch. It's gonna be great.
ignore the fact that I'm stuck here, but you don't have to be. They're kind of like in my situation at work at Disney, but, like, stuck being a YouTuber, and they can't admit that, like, maybe that's not what they want.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's important to know if you're better off as an employee or if you want to work for yourself. What about you? What are your dreams going forward now that you're older?
Well, when I was younger, I dreamt of working at a big studio, and I wanted to, when I was at college, I wanted to be a big name animation artist. And then when I got into this big studio, I loved it. I still love it. It's just this hype that I built up in my head, and that I kind of got because of all of this stuff like CTN and all of this animation industry. I don't know, just enthusiasm that's popped up like this. There was never really a time like this where animation was like something, a job that you wanted to pursue. It was sort of like this weird, obscure job. No one even knew how cartoons were even made.
Yeah.
But now they do. And I really wanted to be a part of that. But now that I have been, and now that I know what it's like to make good money making cartoons, it's a fine job.
Yeah. But
it's a fine job. But one day, and we talked about retirement recently, and one day I would just love to be in a position where I don't have to worry about money. I don't have to worry about grinding to pay for this thing that I want or this thing that I have. I just want to wake up, and if I decide to go plein air painting, I do. If I decide to go to a cafe and sketch, I do. If I decide I want to work on like a graphic novel project with you, that's fine. If I want to roll over and write a song or play piano, that's fine too. And what I would love is just to be in a position where I could just make something every day. Every day something will exist that hasn't existed before because I woke up and made it. And I think if I just do that every day and make a body of work, a collection of sorts, I could put it out there and it could be like, if you like it, cool. If you don't really care.
Yeah, but it belongs to you.
But it belongs to me, and like
you.
I want something that's mine. I want somebody to say like, hey, your shit sucks, because at least it acknowledges the fact that the thing that sucks is mine.
Yeah.
I can't even say, like, there's nothing you can say. Like, the art I make was from school. The art I make now is for work. The art I have in my sketch, the art I used to make for Instagram was just to impress people and get followers. Now I just don't care about that anymore.
Yeah. So how is that different from what you do now? Like what your dreams were when you were younger?
How is it different?
Yeah, because I think a lot of people would say like, well, aren't you doing that because you're working for a big studio?
Oh, it's because I'm not making anything for myself. And I have been in a position ever since I went to college, especially, where I'm constantly making art to impress people, to impress my teachers, to get a good grade. Now I'm making art to make an impressive TV show, to impress my employers, things like that, and to impress the audiences. But when we make art when we're kids, when I used to make art when I was in middle school, I did it because I took pleasure in it. And when I did it a lot, it was nice to be able to make for about like 10 months to a year of like sketchbooks after sketchbooks or little of my own personal comics, and look back and really look at it and go, I made this. This came out of my being. Like I birthed this, basically. Like this wouldn't be here if I good or bad, this thing is here now because I made it, and it's mine, and it's my expression, and it's everything about me turned into a thingy.
Yeah.
And that's not how I see things when I'm at work.
Yeah.
When I make art when I'm designing, period. I'm designing.
Yeah.
There's a means to an end. There's somebody to impress, and there's money to be made. I'm designing for people, but I just want to not do that anymore.
Yeah, I think it's amazing how when you're working for someone, especially in Hollywood, you have absolutely no control over what your efforts are used for. And I think people understand that, but to a point. Like, there are some basic things that, obviously. For example, when you're making cartoons or whatever, you're making it because the people you're working for want to entertain people. We all understand that. or maybe it's to educate children or people, teach them lessons in life or whatever. We all understand that too. Very, like, that's the basic purpose for these things. Now, so occasionally it's used as an agenda. It's used as propaganda or to further some kind of message someone wants to get across. That's very political sometimes. For the most part, we all kind of understand that now too. That last one was a little bit harder for me to stomach than most people, but you know what? Whatever. It is what it is. But one thing I did not expect at all, that I don't think anyone thinks about, is that how often our efforts, our entertainment is used as like petty revenge to get back at someone, to like have
get
some
back at the audiences,
Yeah.
or get back at people on Twitter.
Yeah. And that's disgusting too. It's like, oh, so you mean
You're spending
You're-
like whatever X amount of money on the budget, and all of these talented people, all these people who like try so hard, who went to school, spent $200,000 to go to school to make this fucking show look amazing. You're doing what with it? Getting back with people on Twitter?
Yeah.
Shading people? Like,
And it's so amazing to me that much money, that much time is used to make an entire cartoon episode just to be petty. Just because your own ego is so bruised that you couldn't just be like,
I think the audience is
Whatever.
probably thinking like we're being too vague. Like, what are you talking about?
well,
Like, give an example.
I mean, I guess like Shira. Like there's so many shows that
Man, we
that
have
do this.
a really good friend who worked on Shira. When I think it was our first WonderCon 2017. I want to say, was it 17 or 18? Well, she came over and she saw our booth and we chatted. And was she? Did you ask her if she was working on Shira or what? How did that go down?
I mean, whenever we talk to our friends, I always go like, how's it going? Is your show almost ending?
And the first, like, you know, expression they make, you want to like pay really close attention to. Was their first inclination to frown or smile? And her first inclination when she said, like, oh, I'm on Shira, was like, I'm on Shira. And that's never a good sign.
Yeah. She, as well as like other people on that crew, have told us things that for the most part, to sum it up, it's just they weren't happy. Let's just say that. And I'm sorry for all the people who really love that show. And I don't know what it's done for you in your life, but like clearly it has.
All it's done is made other people's lives miserable.
Yeah.
All that show has done.
And yeah, it's really upsetting.
When people want to work on something and they want to like do a good job and give it their all, they want to be on board. You know, they really want to like make something great because they believe in a thing.
Yeah.
You don't want to have people go like, I work on that show.
And as a person who, like, there are plenty of people outside of maybe the writers or whoever exacting their pettiness that are involved in making something like that, and they're selfishly involving someone who is just like, I'm just trying to
make your petty bullshit
do
look
my
beautiful.
job, yeah. And why are you dragging me into this? Why are you doing this? Why? I at the very least, if I've accepted that my job is basically like a job in the office, if I've accepted that like I make bullshit cartoons or I'm here to make entertainment, to entertain people, I'm humble, a little artist, being an artist. Why do you have to do this to me? Like, on top of like I'm just trying to simply exist. Why do you have to drag me into your weird internet bullshit? In my job, like, this
Or
is
politics.
my job. Yeah. And, and so, like, enough of that happens to you over a very short amount of time working. I'm talking about, like, myself. Like, I don't consider, like, working in animation for, like, 4 years a very long time. But, like, 4 years, I feel like I've witnessed this whole lot of stuff, and I'm just like...
What, do you think it's going to get better
Yeah.
as you get older
No,
in the industry?
of course
I don't
not.
think so.
Why would anyone think it would change? Because
Yeah.
it wouldn't. It's not gonna. And I'm not sure it was ever any different.
Yeah. That's the shocking part. That's the part that I'm like, oh, that's the big difference between watching some sort of doc about a studio and actually setting foot every day in the studio. It's not nearly as glamorous.
No.
You know, and when, like, I can vividly remember and imagine all of the fantasies I had working, if I were to work at Pixar or DreamWorks, or I wouldn't even know what the space looked like. I remember when at school they gave us a tour at Disney Animation, like,
Feature?
you know, Disney Feature in what is that? In Burbank, right next to Providence. I remember thinking, like, my God, it is so dark.
Yeah.
My God, it is so dreary. My God, it is so quiet. Like, I wasn't there on an off day. I think at the time Wreck-It Ralph had just come out. There were some Wreck-It Ralph arcade machines around, and they were barely working on Frozen. Well, not barely working. They were like halfway, I guess, halfway through Frozen. And then they had some of the concept art on the wall. And I just kept thinking, like, man, this art is so appealing. This art is so beautiful. It's so colorful. It's eye candy. How is it made in a place like this? That was the shocking part.
Yeah.
That was the most shocking part of it all, of setting foot in, like, the studio. I was like, where the fuck is the light, and why is it so quiet? Why is it when I, you know, sneakily peer into every office, it's just dark, and then, you know, you see somebody working go like this.
Vincent's like like a drone looking at the camera as he's pretending to work at his pretend computer.
Yeah. And it's like a scene from The Shining or something. I remember it was like really creepy and strange. But when you go to DreamWorks, it kind of looks like what they advertise. You know, when I set foot at DreamWorks, I remember when I set foot at DreamWorks, it felt amazing because there's the fountain, the beautiful fucking flowers, the DreamWorks hedge and pose, like doing like, yeah. And then but then when you go into the studios again, like, remember when we snuck in?
I let Vincent in and other people in to the office area.
Totally. But we went in, and then it was empty and it was quiet again.
Yeah.
It's so strange. And I just, again, I look at the art that are posted on the walls, and I go, how is it that this beautiful stuff is made in a place like this?
Yeah, it's pretty sad because, like, you realize all the weird flexing on Twitter and the Instagram bullshit and all this stuff. It's all insecurity. It's whether you are working in these places or not. The ones who are they're still very, very insecure and doing all sorts of things on the internet to compensate for that. And then the people who aren't are also very, very insecure for not being that. So there's just a whole, like, when I open up the internet, all I see, all I smell is insecurity and flexing and people trying to behave a certain way and be
steel manning.
Yeah. Oh my God, I hate that. Like, I hate that.
I don't even, man, when I, like, if I meet you for the first time and you spend your first paragraph meeting me going, yeah, I work for this fucking video game company, I worked on these video games and all this stuff, I go, I check out in the mind and I immediately try to find something else to do.
Yeah,
I hate that stuff.
It's honestly like the thing I hate the thing I hate the most is when people go, I've been working in blah 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 for X amount of years, and I go like and it's just like, why does that give you any sort of legitimacy? Why? And I understand this really really really
You could have
well.
been failing up for 7 years.
Most people do, and I understand this really well because I grew up where I grew up. And you don't understand how the most intelligent person from MIT, from Harvard, from whatever, can also be
Dumb
very
as fuck.
dumb.
Yeah.
Like in certain respects.
Yeah.
And so like, I don't care. I don't care how many years you worked in whatever you worked in.
I don't care where you graduated. I don't care what Ivy League fucking prep bullshit you went to. I don't care. I don't care. Who are you as a person?
What have you done?
What cool ideas do you have? What have you done?
Exactly.
What neat shit have you made? That's it. That's all I give a shit about. I don't care about your job. I don't care about your fucking student of the month fucking bumper sticker. What have you done with your life? Have you made something that matters? Have you done something that matters? Have you inspired people? Have you done what you really, really, really wanted to do? Have you conquered your fears? What? And you're gonna fucking talk to me about oh, I went to Harvard and I work at Pixar. I'm just like, who cares? Like, I don't care.
Like, if you need to use that to legitimize your opinion.
How sad is that?
Like, if that's the opening sentence that you even need to say to prove to people that your opinion should be listened to is kind of sad.
Yeah.
Which is why I am not really proud to be part of the art community. I don't really like
It's
being
the worst.
considered an artist.
It's so bad.
We like to listen to Scott Adams, and I've noticed that he feels the exact same way. He doesn't really consider himself an artist. If anything, he considers himself an entrepreneur. And I'd rather consider myself an entrepreneur than to call myself an artist, because in my opinion, it's a little bit embarrassing. It's embarrassing these days because the community is a little bit embarrassing. So
Not a little bit.
it's just sad. It just makes me sad because I want to be proud to be part of the art community.
But everybody is just chasing for the follow,
Yeah.
chasing the gram.
Doing things that are just,
Draw us in your style.
Yeah.
Inktober.
yeah.
Make the number bigger. Make it better. Make it bigger than your enemies. That's all it is.
It's all insecurity.
Yeah.
It's all insecurity.
And I just want to we just want to make stuff.
Yeah.
Like comparatively, when you make your vlogs and your movies, I've never seen you so absorbed and engaged in art making.
Yeah.
I've always felt like a certain part of the process, the art and drawing or painting or storyboarding process, was always like a chore for you. There would always be something. But I feel like when you're filming me, or when I'm watching you behind the scenes filming yourself do something for the vlog or study even, you're so absorbed in it. When you watch movies, you are at the point where you can just look at the frame and know what lens it is. You just have so much of an awareness, and you're just so, I've never seen you so into something before.
Yeah, I think storyboarding and drawing has always, like, as much as I like art, and it's however pleasurable it is for me to do it, especially when I was younger, and it was just simply because I liked it. I did it because I liked it. There's a little bit of, I hate this all the time, because I don't know if there are any other storyboard artists out there.
I can't be the only one.
But, or at least, like, if you're doing storyboards in school, you are a storyboard artist. You understand there's a whole lot of pain involved in it. Like,
For example, get into it. Like, what are your least favorite parts of the storyboarding process and the most tedious that you just like, oh, this is like the worst day of the week when you have to take care of this thing?
I hate having to practically animate things. Like,
because it's so unnecessary.
Yeah. The way I was taught how to do it is to learn by example and not actually being taught how to do it. So I didn't learn a whole lot of things like anticipation poses and follow through and all these animation terms that I think most other people learn if they work in animation or maybe go to CalArts or something, I don't know. But I learned all that on the job. And it's because now when you're storyboarding and they're turned into animatics, and more these animatics have to look as close to the finished animation as possible a lot of times. So these anticipation and follow through poses are added to basically make it flow as smooth as possible. Some people can take it to the nth degree and practically almost animate something in storyboard form. Some people less so. But for the most part, for my taste, I don't even like antique poses or fall. Like, if I could, I would do the minimum amount of work possible to get the job done, because it's a fucking animatic. You're not going to see it at the end of the day.
It seems as though your philosophy for storyboarding is much more live action, where it's just like, yes, this is what we need. Mm-hmm. This, like, just to communicate to everybody who needs to know, like, this is what we need. Yeah. I think there's a lot of flexing and showing off and trying to prove your existence is worth it to a bunch of people who think that people who draw good makes your existence worth it.
Yeah. So when you're building your storyboard portfolio, and this is a trick that I used in order to convince people to hire me. And if you have excellent draftsmanship, you're a really good draftsman, you're very, very technically good at drawing, and so if your drawings look really good, even though these are quote-unquote storyboards and they don't need to be beautiful, not really, for their purpose, if you do make them absolutely gorgeous, it tricks people psychologically that you're good at your job. Just because your drawings are really beautiful doesn't necessarily mean you're a great storyboard artist.
So I think people are like, what the fuck are you even saying right now? Well, it's like this. You're basically drawing icons that look appealing as fuck. Mm-hmm. So, a circle with two dots and a straight line is a face. And there's a certain formula and a certain positioning and proportioning of how to make a Disney face look what it does. If we shift the proportions and stretch things out a little bit, we get an anime appeal. If we simplify something to like super crazy degree, we could get like a CalArts kind of look. Like it's all appeal is all malleable. Yeah. So when you're doing a storyboard thing and you're just making appealing drawings, that doesn't necessarily mean that like, oh, storyboard artists, go to the top of the downtown buildings, look down, and I want you to draw that. Mm-hmm. Do you think they could draw that?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The old timers can. The ones who storyboard for movies can, but animation people can't.
No. And so that's one. And the second is having all these antic and follow-through poses make you look like you know what you're doing a lot more than other people. And there's this trick that a lot of directors do when they're showing animatics to executives, especially in my opinion ones that aren't necessarily they're very insecure, let's just say that.
Which part?
The directors.
Oh, okay.
The more insecure director will make their revisionists and board artists overboard and make it as smooth and flowy as possible, because what you're showing this animatic, the person you're showing this animatic to, is an executive who might not have know anything about art, who has to basically go yay or nay, and because they're insecure that the executive might not like what they did,
they overcompensate.
They overcompensate by making the animatic look as good as possible. That means good drawing, flowy drawing, so it looks practically animated. Versus there are some directors who in my opinion, are a lot more confident in their ability to tell a story and to be a good director, where they don't need to do that. They don't force their... If they do force their board artists to board a lot, it's to come up with the best idea, not to just make a lot of pretty drawings. They don't need to do that. They don't need to like make sure their animatic flows, because what does it matter at the end of the day? It's going to get animated somewhere else anyways. They're not concerned with the most beautiful drawing, so they might not hire the person that is fantastically technically good at drawing, but they're very good. They will hire the person that makes them laugh, that can tell a good joke, or is really good at acting or whatever.
I think storyboarding, I love really good storyboard drawing. It's like a signature. Yeah. It's like a beautiful signature. I love that type of stuff, but I like it when it's more practical. Yeah. I can see when someone's trying to rant and to show off to Kevin Feige or whoever the fuck. Yeah. I can see. But like for example, the old, have you seen Scorsese? You've seen Scorsese storyboards. They look like butt. Yeah. But but they're so powerful in what he's trying to go for. Yeah. It's like, I'm going to try to go for this. I'm going to try to go for this. This is the best as I could draw it. But when you see what he comes up with when he actually is behind the camera, it's amazing. Yeah. And that's the thing that I really like about storyboarding. Storyboarding is one of the only, I love design. I love paintings. I love really good drawings. I love simple drawings. I love that side of everything. But when it comes to visual storytelling within a frame, I need storyboards to be simple and to the point. Yeah. If it were me, if I were manning a project, I'd be like, bro, you're good. I just need you to come up with the best way you could frame and express this scene right now. I don't need you to, you don't need to stroke my ego.
Yeah, you don't need to flex.
You don't need to flex.
I get it. You're good.
I get it. You're really good. Okay, so David would talk about this all the time. He would call it rant. He would call it rant, where if you were painting, let's say, and you were over painting the shin and the arms, and that's all you cared about, but the composition is just forgettable. Yeah. It's just rant. It's just hey, look at me. Look at how good I can paint flesh, and I know my muscle structures. It's yeah. So what are you saying with it, my dude? That's what art. What are you saying with it? All these people who are trying so hard to draw really good. It's just you're fucking saying nothing. That's why you're teaching. Yeah. You can't do it. You can't say anything. So that's why you're teaching. That's why you're making online courses. That's why you're fucking roping young kids into paying for your fucking art classes, because you don't know how to tell a fucking story.
Yeah. Versus we can kind of tell when someone is good at teaching or not. Oh yeah. Based on this very thing. Just what is your definition of good? And I mean, technique matters to a certain extent, but especially it depends what you're doing too. A beautiful drawing for a storyboard is different than a beautiful drawing for a character design versus a portrait painter. They're all different purposes, different techniques. But anyways, all that just to say that that's what I hate about storyboarding. I hate having to because at this point I don't care. I don't care too much about showing people that proving to people that I'm good. So making a beautiful drawing, I know I can make a beautiful drawing, but why do I need to do that for you? For the purpose of a storyboard? Or why do I need to half animate something when I know this is busy work to me? This is not meaningful work. You're making me sit in my cubicle for 20 extra hours, so for your own insecurity, basically.
To that point, do you want to talk about? Remember when we talked about what it would be like to be in the gulags?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's get into that. But I need to pee first. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Like you said in previous podcasts, there's a lot of talk about re-educating people who can't think right. All these amazing, tolerant, progressive people are like, we need to corral all of these people and sit them down and fucking clockwork orange their fucking minds into thinking exactly like us. So because of that, I was doing a lot of thinking about that, like for the past 2 weeks, running and all this, like our morning jogs. And I was thinking like, man. So when they finally get us into the gulags, I was thinking, let's call this person Chairman
Dilo.
Chairman Dilo. Mm-hmm. So Chairman Dilo is like, hey, you need to go and shovel over that ditch over there. We need to make a road or some bullshit. I was thinking like, you want me to shovel that ditch over there? You want me to get drafted into the front lines? Dude, I draw for a living.
Yeah,
like, you really
useful.
think my best use is to shovel that fucking ditch over there? Do you not understand that you can use me for propaganda and I can like paint your hammer and sickle pictures and all this shit with you and your fucking Chairman Dilo and all this shit? Like, don't you see how you could like put somebody like me in a good use instead of like, just tossing me off to the side?
Yeah. And
I remember explaining this to you at dinner. I just had this thought. So when they get us in the gulags, and then you were like, yeah.
Yeah, so I've actually had the exact same thought without us ever having to talk about it.
Crazy.
because I am convinced that if we were to get into the next World War III, I'm convinced that it's going to be against China, and this is something as a Chinese person I understand about Chinese people, and also that I also read this in I think Persuasion by Robert Cialdini, that the Chinese are very, very smart. They understand everyone has their use, and it's not all just to break rocks in the gulag. They understand, for example, the importance of convincing an American soldier to write that communism isn't all that bad, and to denounce...
just start there, too.
Yeah.
Not like communism works.
Yeah.
Communism defeats capitalism. It's just simply communism. Not so bad.
Yeah. So, like, prisoner of war people of China... in this example that Robert Cialdini gave, was like they would capture American soldiers, and instead of like treating them badly, because that's what you think countries would do, to torture you or whatever, no, they actually treat them really well.
It's more pernicious than that. I think it's more devious.
Yeah, they treat them really well, and then they go, okay, we need you to write, in order to allow you to write back to home to your family or whatever, you can write to them, but you have to admit one thing that you think is wrong with America. Just one thing, just like a simple thing that you have gripes about. And then they'll get them to write that. And then they'll slowly up the ante and be like, okay, now I want you to write that, like, you hate democracy or whatever. And then you do it because you're like, oh, what's the matter with this? And then they'll tell you and be like, okay, we want you to write that communism is good, is better than your democracy or whatever. And that's what they do, and they understand how important that is, that to get specifically an American to do that. And because of social proof, social conditioning.
I think what that tells me is that the Chinese are heavily, heavily aware of social pressure.
Yes.
They really, really understand that there is no better kind of like brainwashing, like no better force to make you do what needs to be done than making it look like society is doing one thing and you're unusual for doing the other thing. And
they understand the importance of media and culture. If they have control over the culture, they can get you to think and do things. Which is why, the Great Firewall of China, where like they're heavily censored everything.
And they're doing that to movies too. Like in Top Gun,
Yeah.
I'm not sure which flag, but a flag that China took offense to, they removed it.
The Taiwanese flag.
Yeah. And then several other instances of just, again, like it always just seems like little things. It's just a patch.
Yeah.
It's just a patch behind Tom Cruise's back. Yeah. It's no big deal. But like, I don't know, when you are like, when you give China an inch, they're probably just like super like,
yeah, man.
We made them do it.
We
made them do the thing. Stupid Americans.
I remember the first time I saw a Chinese company in the opening credits of a movie. I think it was probably Dark Knight. And I was like, uh-oh. Immediately. Like, it was before all of this, before anyone noticed anything. And the first thing I noticed about that movie is I think they're like security guards that are extras in the movie, that they just so happen to be Chinese. Not Cantonese, which, like, I don't know if people can tell the difference, but, like, usually, I noticed movies back in the day, if they ever, like, old movies, like 1950s, maybe around that time, if they ever had, like, a Chinese person, they usually spoke Cantonese. But these two, they spoke Mandarin, and I was like, that's different. That's strange.
I think Jackie Chan movies, they would still speak Canto.
Yeah.
I think Police Story and all that stuff was Canto.
Yeah, because it's a Hong Kong movie, but it's also like Jackie Chan speaks like 5 different languages. Like, why did he specifically? He spoke in Cantonese for the most part. I think for now he might occasionally speak.
So what does it do? Does it make China's? Does it turn them on when they hear Mandarin? What does that mean? Is it like a power thing?
Mandarin is more akin to like when you are from certain areas of China. So like Beijing, Shanghai has Shanghainese, but
so what's the ultimate point about like these security guards being?
A lot of people who are Cantonese are Chinese American in these movies. I believe that these people are like they probably speak normal English. Like, they were just forced to speak their language or whatever. And the people that they hired in Dark Knight or whatever movie that I'm talking about are probably Chinese citizens, like from China, like from that production studio or whatever company that gave Warner Brothers some investment money to influence what kind of extras they get to pick. And I thought that was like, that's interesting. That's really interesting. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having Chinese extras, but the difference is like, it's the Chinese company being able to have a say in who becomes an extra in their movie.
I see. Which means that they you're basically giving them power to influence the movie.
Yeah.
And it's just like you said with the communist example. It's just like a little bit. All it takes is a little bit of a give.
Yeah, and it's the difference.
And then it'll just be like just a little bit bigger, and then a little bit bigger, and then a little bit bigger.
And I'm not saying that like, oh, they're gonna put like more Chinese people. I'm talking Chinese like from China in their company working for them.
Yeah, what ideally I would like is to have Chinese Americans.
Yeah,
in our movies.
Or for the director, whoever to choose, why is a investment company getting to make decisions like, oh, Tom Cruise can't have that patch on his jacket anymore. Oh, put these people in because they work for us. I mean, they don't even have to be Chinese. They could be whatever race. And be like, the point is, they're getting a say.
The point is the say, the amount of say they're getting. It used to be just a little thing, like a little casting thing. Oh, we just have some people, just throw them in there.
Yeah.
And then, we don't really like that. Could you change it? It's just a picture. I mean, it's just a picture. I mean, it's no big deal.
Yeah. And that's how it starts.
Yeah.
Just like with the American soldier, like, oh, can you just write this? It's harmless. Okay, next time, what about this? What about we make that one character in a Marvel movie not a Buddhist monk, because that's not okay here, but we'll make them a Celtic monk.
Yeah,
That's
that makes
fine.
sense.
That's totally
Everybody
fine.
knows they're Celtic monks. Of course.
so that I don't know how we got here. Oh, and so so I understand how much importance the Chinese value perception and culture, and I understand exactly how important that is. And that's why when they capture me and they throw me in the gulags, I'll be like, do you really want these skinny little arms to like break rocks, or do you want me to make the best propaganda movies for you? Because I will do that. I'll do that.
I also want to live too.
Yeah, please. I don't want to die. So I'm very useful to you. But I think that was hilarious that we both had the exact same thought.
Yeah, that's so funny. When I told that to you and you said, oh, I had a very, very, very similar idea, I was just like, that's fucking weird. So weird.
I have thought about this.
Yeah.
Thought it through all the way.
I thought this was one of those like Vincent stupid thought moments, but you were like, I had that thought too. I'm like, oh, okay.
But yeah, so we went on such a huge tangent, but I really like storyboarding for my own little vlogs and movies and stuff like that, because it's such a more practical way of storyboarding. It's more direct. It's how I imagine storyboards were always meant to be. I talked a little bit very briefly about how in a previous podcast I think storyboards are like theory. It's because like unless you truly animate yourself, or you even beyond animating, you learn how to use a camera, you don't know what's truly possible or impossible, and what are the limitations to what you can achieve, because when you're drawing or even animating in a 3D space, you can pretty much do anything you want. You can break all the rules. You can force the camera in whatever way. But with boarding for like the intention of shooting it is really the way. It's subtle, and it's kind of what I always wanted to do, if I'm honest with myself, and which is why I had this realization recently that like, oh, it's no wonder I kind of hated storyboarding when I was working, because it's not that I hate storyboarding, I love it. It's that it just feels so pointless. Whereas like if I've always been trained to do this in this exact way, then it's like, of course I'm much more fulfilled like doing boards for the intention of filming it and then seeing, especially struggling with like achieving certain shots when I'm like, oh, I want to do this but I can't because I don't have the right lens or whatever. That's so much more interesting and more, in my opinion, art making than like sitting there doing some kind of petty script to shade Twitter people. I don't know.
Lately, after work, I've as you could see throughout our many, how many vlogs have we made so far? 11 vlogs. I like making music. I like making music and art after work. And when I'm making art for myself, I really feel like I'm doing something worthwhile with my life. I really do. So I've been thinking a lot lately about, man, why do I care about making so much money? Because I was thinking about, what does it take? What's the minimum amount of money for me to live? And how badly would I want every hour of my life to be making art? And the trade-off would be I make less money or no money. I was thinking about, okay, if there's only a certain amount of money that we need every month, I think we talked about it over breakfast, about $2,500.
Mm-hmm.
If we only had to live off of $2,500 every month, and YouTube was like paying for most of it, if we could get somewhere to have it so that YouTube can pay for our living expenses, mm-hmm. I started thinking like, then what am I working for? And I was thinking of like, oh, I could work for the next 3 to 5 years or even 10 years. But at a certain point, if you reach that to be able to make money, $2,500 on YouTube, let's say, and I was still on the show making the money that I make, what is stopping me from leaving to do what I want to do with my life? And I was thinking like, so I don't need much. I'm not a big collector. I like to collect little, like my philosophy for buying things, I'd like to think everything I buy has some sort of utilitarian thing. You know, all these books are knowledge. All those records are, you know, inspiration, more knowledge. All of my instruments, all of our computers help us create things. This mixer here helps create the podcast. And I was thinking like, why do I want to keep doing this? If the only trade-off, the only penalty really for it was can't really eat out all the time, can't really, you know, pay for crazy dinners or crazy trips and crazy travel, but it's not like we do that all the time. You know, I can't buy crazy things, but at the same time, I don't know where this life of creating stuff will take me. Maybe it'll become a new source of capital. I don't know. But I was thinking like, what is more important to me now? Is it the money or is it the time in my life to do shit? And I was, you know, like I said in the ad for this podcast, I've been reading Writing Down to the Bones. I had no idea. It's so funny. Like I picked this up at this amazing bookstore in Burbank, the Iliad. I hope they're still open. I really hope that. Like
they're still alive.
Yeah, I hope they're still alive. They have two really, really pretty cats. One reminds me of Biscuit. But I picked this up, and then my guitar teacher is actually reading this right now, and we were both talking about how it's like a really neat, you know, just like a lovely little motivation for you to write, because we're both writing songs right now. But there's this awesome portion in this where she's basically talking about what I'm trying to convey, and this is Writing Down to the Bones by Natalie Goldberg. I'm going to read like a portion of it. You're more interested finally in living life again in your writing than in making money. Now, let's understand, writers do like money. Artists, contrary to popular belief, do like to eat. It's only that money isn't the driving force. I feel very rich when I have time to write, and very poor when I get a regular paycheck and no time to work at my real work. Think about it. Employers pay salaries for time. That is the basic commodity that human beings have that is valuable. We exchange our time in life for money. Writers stay with the first step, their time, and feel it is valuable even before they get money for it. They hold on to it and aren't so eager to sell it. It's like inheriting land from your family. It's always been in your family. They have always owned it. Someone comes along and wants to buy it. Writers, if they are smart, won't sell too much of it. They know once it's sold, they might be able to buy a second car, but there will be no place they can go to sit still, no place to dream on. And even though there's a lot of flowery language to it, the essence is there. It's like, it's just that. It's like, I don't feel rich right now, even though I'm making, you know, if you're like an 18-year-old artist and you're going to CalArts and all this stuff, you're like, I want to make as much money as you. I want to work on the TV show you work on. I don't feel wealthy, and I don't feel your excitement. In fact, you can have what I have. If I could be 18 again and just to have all of that time, I'd do so much with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been on my mind a lot. It's like, interesting. This, like we talked about, this thing that I wanted, this animation thing, I got it. It's great. I can always imagine me kind of working in it, I guess, maybe like for freelance or something. But ultimately, I really think like, I think there's more for me in this life. And I think you're correct in saying that, like, you know, you get bored after you get what you want.
Yeah.
Like that YouTuber. She got what she wanted, and now she's like, I'm going back to work.
Yeah.
Cool.
And for me, this time over money, money over time thing. Well, there's two thoughts that I have. One is people need to stop trading time for money. Trading time for money is like working hourly. It's clocking in at work, clocking out, because you only have so much of time, and which means you can only make so much money when you're trading time for money, which means you will forever be trading your time for money for as long as you are capable of working, for as long as you're doing it. You'll always ask yourself, why don't I have more money? Oh, it's because I don't have enough time. Or how do I just get a higher salary? Well, then you're still going to ask yourself the same question eventually. And for me, what I'm learning to do more, and I've always kind of did this, but never to this large a scale, is to figure out ways to stop trading time for money. That way you can have your cake and eat it too. You can have your time and money. So YouTube, for example, is a great way to do this, because even though, let's say, I'm not making much now, but let's say I work like 10 hours to make one video, and that video makes $10. That sucks, right? But what if that video just keeps making $10 for as long as it exists? Then one day I would have spent 10 hours on this video that made me thousands of dollars. Who knows?
Yeah, that would make you more money. So what I'm excited about is that, like, I really see it at this rate. You are going to make more money than you did working at Disney, and you're going to make more money than me soon. And I think in a few years, you're going to be making more money than any of the people in animation.
Yeah, it's like the effort and the time I put into this thing keeps working for me far past when I stop working. So like, even though I'm let's like, again, if I spend 10 hours on a video and I make $10, it doesn't seem like much now, but like a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, my efforts keep going, and my efforts compound on each other. Learn compound interest in school or something. Like, the effort you put in now, it just keeps going and going and going. It doesn't stop. Versus when you go into work, that 8 hours, once it's done, you have to put in another 8 hours tomorrow. Otherwise, you get less money. You get less money if you stop. So there's that. Another way of doing it is like figuring out how to sell products that are mass produced, or just produced without too much effort on your part. And that's another way of doing that. That's why, like, certain people only have to invent one thing, and then they're like,
they're good.
Yeah. Because they can market and sell that one thing forever, and they're like millionaires or whatever.
Man, don't you wish you could just be normal? Don't you wish you could just be like some of the people we work with who just, like, you know, go into work, they sneak out, and then, you know, they like eat with their friends, and they hang out, and they watch Netflix, and they just chill.
Yes.
And they don't really have any plans, no big grandmaster plan of like, I want to make a cartoon, I want to make a book, I don't want to do anything, I just want to do this.
Yeah.
I wish that all the time. I wish I was the type of person who could just like fuck off after work and not worry about, it's not even a worry, it's this feeling of like, I need to make something. I need to do something. I need like this gnawing feeling of like, I need to draw in a sketchbook. I need to write a song. I need to play piano. I need to make something. And yeah. I don't feel like I can play video games or even watch movies for a long period of time, but eventually I'm going to have this gnawing feeling of like, I need to do something.
Yeah, it's awful. We're truly, the idea of a tortured artist is true, because we're just tortured with our own creativity all the time.
If I could turn it off, that would be like, I was thinking doing the show, like helping you with the show notes for this, I was thinking like, would I give it up? I mean, I don't want to give it up because it's such a huge motivating factor in my life. But if I could just turn it off and give it a break, and just when I decide I want to chill, that'd be like, great.
Truly.
Yeah, but then I'm always, even when we're like at Terranea or somewhere really nice and fancy at a spa resort, I'm still thinking like, fuck, I got work next week.
Jordan Peterson has a great video on this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he actually talks about this. Yeah.
Recently?
No.
Oh.
I mean, he's probably talking about everything.
Oh, yeah.
But he has this, I forget what it's called, a lecture on like creativity, why you don't want to be creative.
Oh, I've heard that
Yeah.
one before. Yeah.
And then he talks about how like all you people who are like not creative, stop trying to be, because it's like the worst. It's like people who are truly creative, they can't stop. They can't, there's no like, you're tortured by it. And yeah, if I were normal, I wouldn't have quit.
Yeah,
if I
I
would
think
have
so.
just been like, yeah, this is fine.
This is fine.
What more is there? What more is there to ask for? I'm fine. I can just make my money, retire at 65 or whenever I get to retire. Who knows? And
That's that?
I go home every night, turn on Netflix, cook, have kids. Well, I don't know what normal people do, but like, I think I would be a lot happier.
Yeah, it's like, what's the project? What's the project? What's the project? What's the next big heist? What's the next big like con? What's the next big like, what's the next thing on the horizon? I'm always thinking like, what's our next project, babe? What are we gonna do? I'm always thinking about that. And even though we assign time, we are so weird. We have to assign time to relax.
Yeah, to force ourselves.
To force ourselves to relax. We still can't relax.
Yeah.
Not completely.
Because we were like talking over this topic, I was thinking really hard about like, what would I have done differently? If I know what I knew now versus back then, when I was like maybe in school trying to decide what I wanted to do with my life, and knowing that this is what I like working for myself, I like putting a lot of effort into this thing that I personally own and have control over. That has never changed about me. So what I would have done is, instead of chasing after notoriety and recognition and working at these big studios, because I felt like only then will I be capable to make what I wanted to make, which is completely false. You can make an animated movie right now if you wanted to. You can, without the money or the budget or whatever. You can make a graphic novel if you wanted to.
Right
you can
now.
make a TV show if you want. You can make you can do whatever it is you want to do right now. It doesn't matter how little money you have. You can do it. Trust me, you can. You can find a way. And I wish I had done that instead. I wish I had gotten a job, a very basic job that allows me to make ends meet. And ends meet to me is very little. Like, I really don't need much. I'm willing to pinch every penny. And I can I learned very well from my mom how to pinch pennies. And I can live on nothing. And I would use the time that I have, because I would hope I would have a lot of time, because I do that. I do like a less time and like mind, something that costs a lot of energy in my mind. How do I say that?
Mentally taxing?
Yeah. Pick a job that isn't so mentally taxing and doesn't require too much of my time, and I would use all of my time to just focus on making things for myself, like building a company or creating a YouTube channel or making like movies and videos and doing that all the time. Like I would, and the trade-off would be is that I know more now. I know more about what it is to work in a big corporation. I know what it is to work in animation, and like I've learned things that I wouldn't have learned otherwise. But when I think about it, like I would rather trade that knowledge for that other life back then, to like live on nothing, do the bare minimum to make money, but do what it is that I love. And so that's like being rich to me. That's what the definition of being rich is to me. It's not to like like, would I trade that for all the money I earned in animation and all the experiences and all the knowledge I've gained? Yes, I would totally trade that for that life. Because if I had lived that life earlier on, I think I would have been happier. Like, if I would have suffered less because I wasn't around people I hated and like lived a life that just was just so draining emotionally and mentally, yes, I would have traded that.
Yeah, man. We've been talking about this a lot lately.
Yeah.
Anyway, what is the recommendation for today?
It is Fanny and Alexander
Yay,
by
Ingmar
Bergman. Good. I watched this movie recently, and it's very, very, very good. And if you want to get in the mood of like the holidays, it's a great movie because the whole basic first act I think happens on Christmas, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. I think Sven
Lindqvist.
He does the cinematography, and
He's one of the goats.
It is absolutely like the holiday scenes are probably referenced in every single holiday movie I think you've probably ever watched in your life, and there are so many references to other movies that other movies have taken from this movie. So, for example, I'm pretty sure David Fincher has taken a lot from this movie, and Hereditary took a shot from this movie.
Ari Aster.
And so many. I think Sixth Sense as well.
M. Night Shyamalan.
And yeah, so like probably every single director you possibly know now, who is very well known now, probably has, if they're worth anything, worth their salt, they probably watched this movie and was like, I'm gonna steal a few things because it is amazing. So better watch this movie if you want to make movies.
Oh yeah. And show us what you make in the comments below. Leave a like over there if you really like this conversational podcast.
Yeah, like, subscribe, check out these other podcast episodes. Head over to honeyandabsent.com to buy some merch because it helps us support this channel. I'm wearing the Hustle t-shirt today in yellow. And we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.